Off and running, welcome in another edition of Musso at the Box, presented by Gauntlet Light Installers. LSU has their heart ripped out in College Station to wrap up that series. Aggies with a 4 spot in the bottom of the 8th. Send the Tigers home with a series loss in a really, really tough one. I've got thoughts on the entire weekend from an offensive perspective, from a bullpen perspective, from, matchup perspectives, really on everything that we can get into. But I just kind of want to start at the end of Sunday's game. First, smash the like button if you haven't already. Please get subscribed, YouTube channel, and on your favorite podcast app. Follow on social media. All of that is greatly appreciated. Now that that's out of the way, let's start at the end of the game on Sunday. LSU had absolutely dominated the top of Texas A&M's lineup. That is just an inarguable fact. Texas A&M's lineup, the top 3, Jace Laviolette, Wyatt Hensler, Caden Sorrell, were a combined 3 for 31 with 16 strikeouts entering the bottom of the 8th inning on Sunday. I know numbers don't always play well in an auditory medium. Let me repeat that slowly one more time. Texas A&M, the top 3 in their lineup, Laviolette, Hensler, Sorrell, entering the 8th inning on Sunday, were 3 for 31 with 16 punch-outs. It wasn't even competitive. And in the bottom of the 8th inning, they went 3 for 3, and you lost the game. And they did it against your ace bullpen arm, who had a really tough weekend finally. And that's going to happen to every pitcher, no matter how great they were. And it really stinks that this happened to be the one for Zack Cowan. And we could talk about it, but I know there's going to be a lot of people angry that LSU lost the series. And we'll have that conversation towards the end. But this is what I know you can be angry about the offense. And there's certainly portions of the weekend where that is fair. I don't think Sunday is really one of them. And we'll get into numbers why. When you look at Sunday, they beat you. They beat you. That's the hardest thing to have to admit from a playing perspective, from a coaching perspective, from a fan perspective, from a media perspective. But they did. They beat you. They were just better than you when it came down to crunch time in game number 3 on their home field. And look, that stuff matters. And their best hitters finally put swings on ball. Well, Caden Sorrell finally put a swing on the ball. Jace Laviolette had a swinging bunt that was in the right spot. And Wyatt Hensler capped the ball into right field that scored. But regardless, they made the swings. They got the hits. They beat you. Their bullpen ace in Weston Moss was a bullpen ace the second time he came out this weekend, and you couldn't hit him, and they beat you. I thought LSU offensively in game number 3 did really well for the opportunities that they had. There weren't many. Miles Patton pitched really well. Ultimately, all 4 runs you got came off of him. And then, I'll double check this, but I don't think LSU had a base runner off of Weston Moss in the game on Sunday. Curiel singled up the middle. That was the one. You had 1 base runner against him in 3 innings. So you didn't really have opportunity. And you could say, well, they should have had opportunity. Well, that's their best arm. And when we previewed the series, we told you, that's a guy who is their Zack Cowan, who is their Case and Evans, who they will turn it over to and say, hey, go get multiple outs. Go take us the rest of the way home. Their guy was really good. But when you had opportunities in the 4th and the 6th, you capitalized on them. You hit 500 with runners in scoring position in game number 3. And all 4 of your runs scored with 2 outs. Like, those are hallmarks of this offense. They did well. LSU was 27-0 when leading after 7 innings. You couldn't have been in a better spot. And they made the swings and they beat you. And damn, that sucks. That really, really, really sucks. Like, that's a tough one to swallow. That's a tough one to take. Again, we'll talk big picture here momentarily because it doesn't really change much for LSU in the big picture, but we'll lay it all out and have that conversation. Man, I thought Luis Hernandez was awesome. Obviously, in game number 3, I mean, he was 2 out of 3. He drove in 3 out of your 4 runs. Almost had a 2-homer day. That was great to see. That's back-to-back Sunday games where he's just been huge and a catalyst for your offense. Unfortunately, your bullpen held the line for as long as they could, and they pitched great. How can you not love DJ Primo coming in and getting Laviolette in a big spot left on left? Same thing for Cooper Williams, y'all. That's something that we had talked about in the preview, that your left-handed pitchers were they were going to have to be huge in this moment in this series, because there were going to be moments against their best hitters who are left-handed that you were going to have to come in there, match up, and do the job. And you did it. And I'll even say that Connor Ware did his job. Connor Ware induced the weakest possible contact you could have against Jace Laviolette. It was just in the right damn spot. He runs well and he beats it out. And then, Hensler caps it and Sorrell hits one off the scoreboard. But whatever. Your lefties were phenomenal when you needed them to be. But for a swinging bunt, they did the job every time. I thought Jaden Newt acquitted himself very well in his relief appearance. That splitter was absolutely disgusting multiple times throughout that game. I know you look up and you see there's an earned run on the board. It was a homer to Caden Kent, solo shot that tied the game. But other than that, he didn't issue free pass. He issued 1 walk, but he punched out 3. I thought Newt looked good, and that's someone you can hopefully count on going forward. When I look at LSU's pitching staff from the weekend, I see a lot of promise because of guys that stepped up. I know Chase Shores ultimately gets charged with the run there, but without the swinging bunt, he doesn't. Chase Shores pitched really well. He came in, the 3 straight out of the zone, and the hit batter, and it looked like, oh, goodness. And then he retired 5 in a row, maybe even 6 in a row, before Gavin Cash, hits the double. And you go to Ware, and look, man, you almost got out of that without allowing the run. But that was an encouraging outing from Shores, especially coming off the week that he had a week ago. So, looking at LSU's bullpen, Maverick Rizzi, we talked about him yesterday after the doubleheader. Maverick Rizzi was awesome. That was overall from the bullpen, it was really encouraging. Now, when you look at Zack Cowan, what happened? What went wrong? And look, for me, it's as simple as he just wasn't his sharpest. They got good swings off the changeup. They definitely had a plan there, of course. I don't think he had the greatest command of his changeup, and that's what I mean that I said he wasn't the sharpest. He pitches off of the change. The fastball is only going to get up to about 92, and that's on a good day. He counts on that playing up off of the change, and he couldn't really land the changeup for a strike very often in this series. And A&M was able to sit on the fastball. The homer from Sorrell was a fastball. He was behind in the count as well, which is not something you're used to seeing from Zack Cowan. And he just was. And when you add it all up, it's 2 outings. He faced he faced 7 hitters. Got 2 outs. Over 2 outings, gave up 5 hits and 4 earned. And again, for me, it was just the command of the changeup wasn't there. So that's what I mean by I say he wasn't the sharpest. You can look at the number of pitches over the weekend compared to strikes, and it looks normal for Zack Cowan, but it's where the strikes were, what pitches they were on, and it just wasn't enough of them on the changeup. And credit A&M. They hit him. And that stinks. I'm not going to sit here and criticize Zack Cowan too much because he's been an absolute dog for you all season long. He is a major reason that you are in the position that you are in right now, competing down the stretch for a top 8 national seed, and you have a chance to get to 40 wins in the regular season before the final weekend of the regular season, which is remarkable, and Zack Cowan's a huge part of that. He had a bad weekend. I expect him to bounce back, but it is just a really rough time for him to have a bad weekend. Just a really, really rough time for him to have a bad weekend. Because, man, you felt him coming in the 8th, he gets you out of that inning, and you turn it over to the ninth, and you're going to face Sorrell with nobody on, and that's a good spot to be. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the cards, and for me, it had everything to do with the command of the changeup. It wasn't sharp. I mean, you look at the 8th inning on Sunday, the first pitch he threw was a changeup wide. The first one. He missed with it. So, overall, I thought LSU pitched a phenomenal weekend. Before the 4 runs in the 8th, LSU had given up 7 runs all weekend long. Let's see, not all of them were earned. I think 6 of them were earned. It's just, they beat you on Sunday. That was a really well-played game by both sides, and they made the swings when they needed to, and they beat you. But I come out of this weekend very encouraged by LSU's pitching. Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson were elite. They struck out a combined 26 hitters over their 15 innings. They gave up just 2 earned runs. Like, you feel great about your 1-2, and you're going to need them at home this coming weekend against the best offense in the SEC in Arkansas, statistically. Like, you're going to need those 2 guys to be at their sharpest, and they were this weekend. And I like, again, outside of the rough go for Cowan for the first time this weekend, I really like what I saw from LSU's bullpen. So I come out of this weekend, even though you lose 2 out of 3, feeling really good about your pitching staff. Now, offensively, let's talk about that. And then we'll kind of get into the big picture of where LSU stands heading into the second to last week of the season. Offensively, LSU scored 7 runs this weekend. Look, Texas A&M was ranked preseason number 1 for a reason. That's a good team. It's a really good team. It's a really talented team. It's a team that was a national runner-up a year ago. You don't need me to tell you that. And they have just about everybody else back. They have just about everybody back from that team. They got off to a slow start. They've been playing better ball. We know what their pitching is capable of doing because we saw it all last year. That's a really good staff. That being said, for the majority of the weekends, I did not like LSU's at-bats. I didn't think LSU competed great the first 2 days at the plate against elite pitching. I think LSU has done very well this season in the grand scheme of things against elite pitching. You're not sitting, on 38 wins at this point in the season if you haven't. This weekend, I was discouraged a little bit. It was very, very hard for LSU to string together anything. They did it. I mean, before Sunday, LSU had scored in 2 innings all weekend long. LSU had opportunities in more than 2 innings all weekend long, but they were only able to cash in. And that's why when you look up and you see that LSU hit 235 with runners in scoring position this weekend, that's why. And that's boosted by the fact that you hit 500 on Sunday in Game 3. You tinkered with the lineup when I don't really think you needed to. I don't like Jared Jones in the leadoff spot. I don't like Derek Curiel down further in the lineup. I want him leading off. If he's struggling or not, I don't care. I will say this again. At this point in the season, you know who your guys are. There's really no amount of lineup changes that are going to change things on May 4th and May 5th and that area of the season. You know who your guys are. You need to roll with them. In a lot of the ways, you punched and pushed the right buttons this weekend on offense. But I just don't think you're setting yourself up for a lot of success early in ball games with the lineup and the order. Let me be specific. The order of the lineup you ran out there the last 2 games of this weekend. And you still almost won, which again speaks to how well you pitched this weekend. Outside of 1 inning. And again, you really kind of pitched well in that inning. The ball fell their way and they hit a ball off the scoreboard. I don't like Jared Jones in the leadoff spot. I don't like Josh Pearson hitting behind Jared Jones. It's just not things that I like. Danny Dickinson has proven to be able to protect Jones extremely well. Jake Brown has shown that he can do that. I think you have seen things that have worked with this offense over a large sample size this season, and LSU here in the last 2 or 3 weeks has just gone away from it because of some struggles here and there. But really what it's done is it's taken you out of rhythm, in my opinion, and has led to more struggles offensively. Like, there is a traditional lineup that this team has had a lot of success with, and I'd like to see them go back towards that. And that's a top 3 of Curriel, Jones, and Dickinson. And then if you have a lefty on the mound, you can put Fry at cleanup. If it's a righty, hell, you can put Brown at cleanup. The move I love that they made this weekend is Milam back down to the 8-hole. Because that's where Stephen Milam had his most success this season, was down lower in the order. And he had 3 hits over the course of this weekend, 1 in each game, and they were big hits as well. That's a great sign. I think it's a really good sign to see just a little bit of sustained success there for Stephen Milam. But again, when you were having great success earlier in the season offensively, he was down in the 8-hole. They moved Stanfield back to the 9-hole. I like that as the bottom of your order. And for what it's worth, the bottom of your order on Sunday was awesome. Obviously, Hernandez with 2 hits, Milam with 1, Stanfield with 1. They had 4 of your 7 hits came from 7, 8, and 9. So, stick with that. And by the way, Hernandez, Milam, Stanfield was awesome for you over the course of the large majority of the season, but you have to figure out the top of your lineup again. And I don't think the answer is that far away. I think you've actually done it plenty this year, and you just kind of have to get back to it because you know who your guys are. Starting John Pearson the other night, there was just no reason for that. I know he wanted to get as many right-handed bats in the lineup as he could against Justin Lampkin, and fine. That's an inexperienced player that you put in there in a huge spot. Anthony Ianson picked you up. But it feels like they are just overthinking the lineup, first and foremost. And I thought on Sunday, the middle of your lineup did great setting up the bottom, and Luis Hernandez, more often than not, was the one to come through there for you. Stephen Milam did as well. Hernandez and Milam drove in all 4 of your runs Sunday. So the middle of your lineup did very well, setting up the bottom, and they came through. You got to get that top of the lineup back in working order. Because you remember how great LSU was early in ball games? That's why. It was just immediate stress and pressure having to go through Curriel, Jones, and Dickinson. And you know what? While Dickinson might not be hitting a ton right now, he's taking good ABs. He's working counts. He's drawing walks. He's doing all of those things. And it's putting pressure on the opposition. And that's ultimately what you're looking for on offense. But it wasn't good enough over the course of the weekend. That's the main takeaway. They were not good enough over the course of the weekend. Yes, they faced some really good arms, but I didn't think they set themselves up for success with the lineup, and I don't think that LSU took particularly great at-bats consecutively really until Sunday. The other thing that cannot be overlooked is Derek Curriel's struggles. Curriel had 1 hit this weekend, okay? He's human. Guy's awesome, but that's going to happen to even the best of hitters. Everybody always go back and reference Alex Bregman's slump, right? His sophomore year. And then he eventually broke out of it and was great. Hell, Bregman, when he got to the major leagues, he was 1 for his first 24 or whatever. And now he's a perennial all-star. Slumps happen to the best hitters. It happened to Derek Curriel this weekend, and that stinks. But you had guys pick him up. Mentioned Stephen Milam's 3 hits. How about Ethan Fry? Y'all, we talked about this in the preview, that Fry was going to have to be big for LSU this weekend, and he was. 4 out of 8. Hit 400, couple doubles. Had some RBI in there, I think 4 RBI. 3 or 4 RBI. I don't have it in front of me. He was awesome. You just didn't have enough altogether. You'll go home now. You'll face Arkansas, who, yes, just swept Texas, but you just knocked off a really good Tennessee team at home. A&M just knocked off a really good LSU team at home. It's hard to win on the road in this league, and when LSU's at the box, you have to like where they stand. Okay, let's talk big picture. But first, let me remind you about Gotlit Light Installers. GotLitLights.com, permanent outdoor landscape lighting, your front yard flower beds, maybe some trees you want to illuminate, just however you want to illuminate your landscape. Take the curb appeal of your home to the next level. And it doesn't just have to be the front. It can also be your backyard patio or your pool area. It's pool season now, right? We're into May. Maybe this is your first spring and summer in your pool. You're still finishing the area out. You need some lighting for your pool area, your backyard patio, your outdoor kitchen. Gotlit Light Installers, they can help you out with that as well. All of it is custom design. All of it is install. They will also maintain the lights. If you ever need them taken down, they will do that. And of course, the temporary outdoor lighting for your private events, graduation parties. That's what time of the year it is now. You have a grad in your family, you're throwing them a party, you need some temporary outdoor lighting for that party. Again, custom design, cut to fit. You will have no loose lights. It will look pristine, maintain, tear down, storage. Gotlit Light Installers, GotLitLights.com. Tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. Alrighty, big picture for the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Well, coming out of the weekend, you dropped 2 out of 3. And let me just irritate everybody right off the bat with this conversation. You got 1, and that's huge. I know nobody wants to hear that. I know some of you listening right now probably just cursed me and my family. But LSU got 1, and that's big. Do I need to say the line again? It's hard to sweep. It's not hard to get swept. It's massive that you got 1. You're 15-9 in the league. Yeah, you're off pace right now for 20-10, but you're still solidly on pace for 19-11. And the last 4 years, there has been an SEC national seed with 19 wins, top 8. In fact, in a couple of these years, there's been multiple. So yeah, keep an eye on, Georgia and, Auburn and all those teams. Auburn had a really nice weekend at Tennessee. But you're right there. You go home, you win 2 out of 3. That's going to put you at 17-10. And then you go to South Carolina, which is a very winnable series on the road, where if you take 2 out of 3, you're 19-11. If you sweep, you're right at 20-10. You're still on track. You're still in a very, 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 very good spot if you're LSU looking for a top 8 national seed, even with the loss. And again, it can feel like LSU took a step backward. I don't see it that way. Outside of that game, like where the series, the only game I can look at and say, man, you let that get away this weekend is game number 1, because you gave them a few gifts. Like, you gave them gifts in that game. The 2 missed plays in center field, like the free passes, like you helped A&M out a lot there. And if you don't do that, you sweep the doubleheader and you win the series that way. But outside of game 1, I thought it was 2 very well played games, and they beat you. So I don't see it as a step backward. I told you, I liked some of the things that happened on offense from individuals. I loved the pitching staff outside of finally a rough weekend for Zack Cowan. When you look at LSU in the RPI right now, I mean, this is immediately after the game. Live, you have a top 10 RPI at number 8. That's a really, really good spot to be. Because you got some teams with tough goes of it down the stretch. Arkansas is one of them. I mean, I could tell you what you weren't counting on was Auburn winning that series at Tennessee. Because now that knocks Tennessee down a peg and then their bid for a top 8. And I think they're probably out of that race right now. And Auburn is very, very much in it. But Auburn still has to finish out the season at Ole Miss, which is going to be tough. You look at Georgia. Georgia still has to play that A&M team. And on top of that, They still have to play Alabama. They have to go to Tuscaloosa and then wrap up with Texas A&M. There's time for Georgia to lose games and you move into their spot. But I don't really think LSU needs to worry about that because I still think you're in such a good spot. And if you get to 19 with your resume with the top 10 RPI, it's going to be really, really hard to keep you out. Vanderbilt would be the other team that you're looking at. Just a quick, brief look at what Vandy has left this season. They have to play, they have to go to Tennessee, and then they wrap up with Kentucky. It's going to be tightly contested down the stretch. But you're in a good spot, and you can still realistically even get to 20. And if LSU gets to 20, they're a top 8 national seed. I think they're a lock no matter who's in front of them. I think this is a year where the SEC can get 4 to 5. The other ones that you're looking at right now, would kind of be Vanderbilt and Georgia, because I think Auburn, with that win against Tennessee, they put themselves in a great spot, and plus they beat you. But, Vandy's at 13 wins. Georgia is at 15. Georgia's in a pretty darn good spot right now. But so are you. Keep an eye on Vanderbilt. Because if you end up with a spot where Georgia, Texas, Auburn, Arkansas, and LSU are all right there, I think it's conceivable that those teams can get all top 8. You might say, wow, 5? Well, the SEC got 5 last year. And that was in a 14-team league. This is a 16-team league. So, yeah, that's right there as well. You are still on track. If you take away nothing else from this episode, take away that. LSU is still on track to be a top 8 national seed. And that's a good thing. And if you take 2 out of 3 from Arkansas at home, that's only going to strengthen your resume. That is only going to strengthen your resume. It's a really good league, yet again. No surprise there, right? But I do believe LSU's in a pretty good spot. That's a tough weekend against A&M. That one stings. That one's going to sting for a while. But you know what? You did the same thing to them last year. Same thing on the same weekend. They rebounded pretty darn well. And I think LSU showed some signs this weekend that'll tell you that they will too. Especially now you get to come home. And that's super important as well. You play your best ball at the box. That's why we focus on the national seed conversation every year so much. It's because you play your best ball at the box. Getting one was huge. And I'll tell y'all, the conversation we've had since Bama, like going in to that Tennessee series, was you have to win your 2 at home, get 1 at A&M, and win the series at South Carolina. So far, it's tracking. It's up to them now to go get the win at home against a really good Arkansas team who, I don't know if they'll be ranked number 1 in the country, but you'll be looking at a top 10 matchup for the second straight home weekend at the box between the Tigers and the Hogs. And home field's been pretty darn big in that series throughout. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that one. Tough one to swallow for LSU, but resume's not hurting too bad. You're still in a good spot, and I think you did some really good things this weekend. Y'all go to Gauntlet Light Installers, gauntletlights.com. Please smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed on the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on social media, Twitter, X, Musso Matthew. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as well, though I'm most active on Twitter during the games. Please share. That's also greatly appreciated. And be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.